Now let's move on to a crucial decision everyone faces when filing, choosing between the standard deduction and itemizing. This can have a big impact on how much you owe, especially in certain scenarios. In this scenario, we'll meet a hypothetical taxpayer who's made significant charitable contributions throughout the year. This raises a key question. Is taking the standard deduction still the best route, or does it make more sense to itemize? Sam, Taylor, let's dive in. Under what circumstances does itemizing become more beneficial than taking the standard deduction?
Simply put, Alex, itemizing becomes advantageous when the total of your eligible deductions exceeds the standard deduction amount for your filing status. The reference article we have lists the 2024 standard deduction amounts, which is a great starting point. For example, it's $14,600 for single filers and $29,200 for married couples filing jointly.
So if I understand correctly, if I'm single and donate $15,000 to charity, I should definitely itemize, since that's more than the $14,600 standard deduction, right?
That's a good starting point, Taylor, but it's not quite that simple. Charitable contributions are just one type of itemized deduction. Others include certain medical expenses, mortgage interest, state and local taxes, and a few more. You need to add up all your potential itemized deductions to compare them against the standard deduction.
That's a great clarification, Sam. It's like a seesaw. You're trying to tip the scales in your favor. On one side is the standard deduction, a set amount. On the other side are your itemized deductions. Whichever side is heavier determines which option is better.
Okay, so even if my charitable donations alone don't exceed the standard deduction, other eligible expenses could tip the balance towards itemizing. This brings me to Alex's second question. How do we accurately track and document these deductible expenses? I imagine good record keeping is essential.
Absolutely. The Gather Your Records section of our reference article emphasizes this. You'll need documentation for everything you claim. Think receipts for charitable donations, medical bills, and mortgage interest statements. Form 1081.
That's right. Imagine trying to piece together a puzzle without all the pieces. It's frustrating, and you won't get the full picture. Proper documentation is your complete puzzle, showing the IRS you have the proof to support your deductions.
This reminds me of what we discussed about freelancers needing to keep meticulous records of their income and expenses. This applies to everyone, regardless of how they earn their income.
Precisely. And speaking of different scenarios, some deductions have limitations. For instance, you can only deduct medical expenses exceeding 7.5% of your adjusted gross income AGI. So, if your AGI is $100,000, you can only deduct the portion of medical expenses exceeding $7,500.
Excellent point, Sam. These nuances are crucial. It's important to dig deeper than just the surface level. Now, before we move on, let's recap. Itemizing is beneficial when the sum of your deductions, charitable contributions, eligible medical expenses, certain state and local taxes, and other qualifying expenses is greater than your standard deduction. Accurate record keeping is essential to support your claims. Speaking of other qualifying expenses, let's explore another common itemized deduction, mortgage interest. In our next scenario, the homeowner's dilemma, we'll look at how this factors into the standard deduction versus itemizing decision, especially with fluctuating interest rates. In the meantime, listeners, remember, keep meticulous records of all your potentially deductible expenses throughout the year. It's never too early to start. Don't wait until tax season to scramble, and consult a tax professional or utilize reliable tax software to help determine the best strategy for your specific situation.